The unwanted merchandise. The auction house on Omicron 7 reeked of desperation and broken dreams. Captain Marcus Hayes wrinkled his nose as he walked through the massive warehouse, scanning the lots for salvageable ship components. The air recyclers struggled against the mixture of oil, rust, and the sharp tang of ozone from poorly maintained stasis units. Somewhere in this maze of discarded technology, he needed to find a decent hyperdrive motivator that wouldn't bankrupt his small salvage operation. Marcus paused at Lot 847, examining a collection of navigation computers that had seen better decades. His weathered hands, scarred from years of mechanical work, traced over the damaged casings. At 35, the former military engineer had learned to see potential where others saw junk. It was a skill that had kept his one-man operation afloat in the competitive salvage business. "Not much worth your time there, Captain Hayes," called broker Nexus, the Vorthan auctioneer, whose purple skin gleamed under the harsh warehouse lights. His forearms gestured dismissively toward the electronics. "But I've got something in biological lots that might interest a human with your unconventional tastes." Marcus raised an eyebrow. He'd never shown interest in biological merchandise, finding the practice of trading sentient beings distasteful. "I'm looking for ship parts, Nexus. Nothing else." "Ah, but this one's different. She's been returned 7 times now. Helix Corporation won't even acknowledge the batch anymore." Complete loss on their investment. Nexus's mandibles clicked with what passed for amusement among his species. Defective neural pathways, they claim. Non-compliant behavior patterns. But she's got enhanced cognitive processing capabilities that might complement your technical work. Despite himself, Marcus found his curiosity piqued. The Helix Corporation was known for their advanced bioengineering, creating enhanced beings for military and corporate use. If they'd written off an entire investment, something significant must have gone wrong. "Show me," he said reluctantly. They walked deeper into the warehouse, past crates of mining equipment and decommissioned weapon systems. The biological section was quieter, separated from the mechanical lots by thick plasteel barriers. Here, the lighting was softer, the temperature carefully controlled to maintain the merchandise in optimal condition. Container B-19 sat between a shipment of agricultural specimens and what appeared to be a collection of decorative Altarian crystals. Unlike the other biological containers with their transparent viewing panels, this one was opaque metal with only a small observation port. "She's been in there for 6 standard days," Nexus explained, inputting a code into the container's control panel. "Keeps to herself, doesn't cause trouble. The problem is she thinks too much, analyzes everything. Previous owners found her unpredictable." The container door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, curled in the corner on a basic sleeping mat, was a figure that made Marcus's breath catch. She was humanoid, but clearly not human, with pale, golden skin that seemed to shimmer in the container's dim lighting. Her hair was deep auburn, cropped short in a practical style, and her eyes, when she looked up at the sound of the opening door, were the most striking shade of violet he'd ever seen. But it wasn't her alien beauty that struck him most. It was the intelligence in those eyes, sharp and calculating even as she tried to make herself smaller in the corner. And beneath that intelligence, he recognized something he knew all too well from his own mirror after bad missions. The look of someone who'd been broken down by systems that couldn't understand their worth. "Her designation is Enhancement Zara 9, Nexus continued in his businesslike tone, apparently oblivious to Marcus's reaction. "Helix designed her for tactical analysis and pattern recognition. Enhanced reflexes, improved processing speed, eidetic memory. But she keeps finding solutions they didn't program her to see." Zara hadn't spoken, but Marcus caught the slight tightening around her eyes at the word designation. She was listening, analyzing, probably calculating the odds that this would end like all the others. 7 times returned, 7 times rejected for being too much of what she was designed to be. "What's your name?" Marcus asked suddenly, crouching down to her eye level. The question clearly surprised her. Her lips parted slightly, and when she spoke, her voice was softer than he'd expected, with a slight harmonic quality that suggested enhanced vocal cords. "They call me Enhancement Zara 9. "No," Marcus said gently. "What do you call yourself?" For a moment, she looked confused, as if the concept of self-identification was foreign. Then, so quietly he almost missed it, she whispered, "Zara, just Zara." Marcus nodded. "That's a beautiful name." He turned to Nexus without standing. "I'll take her. Don't you want to review her capabilities first? Run diagnostics? Check her psychological profile?" "I said I'll take her." Marcus's tone carried the authority of his former military rank. "Full asking price. And I want her ownership papers transferred to her name, not mine." Nexus's mandibles clicked rapidly in confusion. "Captain, bioproducts can't own themselves. Galactic commerce regulations clearly state, then change her classification from product to person. I want her registered as my business partner, with full legal rights and protections." The transaction took 20 minutes of arguing, legal, documentation, and credit transfers that made Marcus wince. It was money he couldn't really afford, credits that should have gone toward engine repairs or cargo bay upgrades. But as he watched Zara's expression slowly change from resignation to bewilderment to something that might have been hope, he knew it was the best investment he'd ever made. When the paperwork was finally complete, Marcus extended his hand toward her. She stared at it for a long moment, clearly expecting some kind of trick or trap. Every other hand offered to her had come with invisible chains attached. "You don't belong in a box, Zara," he said quietly. "Not anymore." Her fingers were surprisingly warm when they touched his, her grip stronger than her delicate appearance suggested. As he helped her stand, Marcus was struck by how perfectly she fit beside him, her head reaching just to his shoulder. For a moment they stood close enough that he could smell her hair, something like cinnamon and starlight. "I don't understand," she said, her violet eyes searching his face. "Why would you pay for me just to set me free? What do you want from me?" Marcus smiled, the first genuine smile he'd felt in months. "I want you to be exactly who you are. Nothing more, nothing less." The Phoenix Rising. The cargo bay of Marcus's ship, the Phoenix Rising, felt impossibly vast after the confines of the container. Zara stood in the center of the space, slowly turning, to take in the organized chaos of spare parts, supply crates, and salvaged equipment that filled every available nook and cranny. Everything here had a purpose, a place. Even the broken things were kept for their potential value. "Your quarters are through here," Marcus said, leading her down a narrow corridor lined with maintenance panels and emergency equipment. "It's not luxury accommodations, but it's got a real bed, privacy controls, and your own refresher unit." The room was small but clean, with a porthole showing the swirling colors of hyperspace and a data terminal built into the wall. Zara approached the door controls with obvious fascination, watching it slide shut and open again at her touch. Her own door, her own choice. "Computer, recognize new crew member," Marcus called out. "Zara, tactical consultant, full access to non-critical systems." "Acknowledged," responded a warm feminine voice from the ship's speakers. "Welcome aboard, Zara. I am Iris, the ship's AI. Please let me know if you require assistance with any systems. Crew member, not cargo, not property, not merchandise. Crew." The word seemed to echo in Zara's mind as she explored her new quarters. When she finally looked back toward the doorway, Marcus was gone, giving her space to process this new reality in private. Over the following days, Zara began to understand what freedom actually meant. There were no schedules forced upon her, no tasks assigned without explanation, no punishments for questions or curiosity. Marcus treated her as an equal, sharing meals in the small galley and asking her opinions on navigation routes and salvage opportunities. It was during one such meal that she first revealed the true extent of her capabilities. Marcus had been puzzling over a complex sensor readout, trying to identify potentially valuable salvage in the debris field of an ancient battle. The data was fragmentary, corrupted by centuries of radiation and gravitational interference. The pattern repeats every 47 seconds, Zara said quietly, studying the display over his shoulder. Marcus looked up, surprised. What pattern? The energy signatures. They're not random decay. Something's actively masking specific locations. She pointed to seemingly unrelated data points scattered across the display. There's an intact command ship here, probably with its data core still sealed, and here, 3 fighters with their weapon systems still powered but dormant. Marcus stared at her analysis, then back at her. He'd been studying these readings for hours without seeing any coherent patterns. How did you? Zara's confidence faltered as she recognized the familiar look of suspicion in his eyes. Every previous owner had reacted poorly when her abilities manifested unexpectedly. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interfere. I'll go back to my quarters. Wait. Marcus's voice was gentle but firm. Don't apologize. That analysis is incredible. You just saved us days of random searching. He paused, studying her face with those deep brown eyes that seemed to see straight through her defenses. You've been hiding your talents, haven't you? The question hung between them like a bridge she wasn't sure she dared cross. Finally, she nodded. The others said I was too unpredictable. That enhanced pattern recognition was supposed to be passive, not analytical. They wanted me to see what they told me to see, nothing more. And you couldn't do that? I couldn't stop seeing everything. The admission felt like shedding a weight she'd carried for her entire artificial life. Every connection, every possibility, every flaw in their plans. They called it defective programming. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, processing this revelation. Then he smiled, and Zara felt something warm unfurl in her chest at the genuine admiration in his expression. Sounds like perfect programming to me. That night, as they approached the debris field guided by Zara's analysis, she found herself standing beside Marcus in the cockpit. The salvage operation was delicate work, requiring precise navigation through unstable wreckage while avoiding the automated defense systems that still flickered with ancient malice. Thermal bloom to starboard, Zara reported, her enhanced senses picking up the energy signature before the ship's sensors could register it. Old plasma conduit, but still active. If we approach from below the debris plane, Marcus's hands moved across the controls, following her guidance with a trust that still amazed her. Together, they danced through the graveyard of ships, her tactical analysis complementing his piloting skills in perfect harmony. When they finally secured the intact data core from the command ship, the haul was worth more than Marcus typically salvaged in 6 months. We make a good team, he said, as they secured the prize in the cargo hold. We do, Zara agreed, and for the first time in her existence, she felt like she truly belonged somewhere. But it was later, as they celebrated their success with a shared meal and a bottle of Centaurian wine Marcus had been saving for a special occasion, that something deeper began to bloom between them. The wine had loosened their tongues, and they found themselves sharing stories, dreams, and fears they'd never spoken aloud. Tell me about before, Zara said softly, curled in the corner of the galley's small booth with her legs tucked beneath her. Before you found me. Marcus was quiet for a moment, swirling the golden liquid in his glass. Military engineer for 15 years. Built things, fixed things, made sure good people came home alive. After I mustered out, salvage seemed like a natural fit. Still fixing things, just different kinds of broken. What made you leave the military? Same thing that made them write you off as defective, he said with a bitter smile. I started seeing too much, questioning orders that didn't make sense. Turns out the brass doesn't appreciate engineers who point out the flaws in their strategies. Zara felt a flutter of recognition, of kinship. They wanted you to be less than you were. And they wanted you to be exactly what they programmed, nothing more. Marcus met her eyes across the table. Good thing we're both too stubborn to cooperate. The laughter that followed felt natural, easy, like something that had been waiting to happen between them. When it faded, they found themselves looking at each other with new awareness, the air between them charged with possibility. Zara, Marcus said softly, her name carrying a weight it had never held before. She didn't pull away when he reached across the table to touch her hand. His fingers were warm, calloused from years of mechanical work, and gentle in a way she'd never experienced. For the first time in her existence, touch meant comfort instead of control. I was so afraid, she whispered, of being too much again, of you seeing what I really am and sending me back. Marcus's thumb traced across her knuckles, the simple gesture sending warmth spiraling through her enhanced nervous system. What you really are is extraordinary, and you're not going anywhere unless you choose to. The kiss that followed was gentle, tentative, a question asked and answered. When they finally broke apart, Zara rested her forehead against his, breathing in the reality of acceptance, of being wanted not despite her nature but because of it. Outside the porthole, stars wheeled in their ancient dance, indifferent to the small miracle of two broken souls finding completeness in each other. But inside the phoenix rising, everything had changed. The space between stars 3 weeks had passed since that first kiss in the galley, and Zara had begun to believe in the possibility of a future untainted by rejection. She'd taken over most of the navigation duties, her pattern recognition abilities cutting their travel times dramatically while keeping them clear of patrol routes and pirate territories. More importantly, she'd begun to trust the growing warmth between herself and Marcus. The Phoenix Rising drifted through the Kalaran Nebula, its engines running silent as they waited for the perfect salvage opportunity. Marcus had taught her to read the energy patterns of derelict ships, how to distinguish between valuable cargo and dangerous traps. But tonight, as they lay together in his quarters watching the nebula's pink and gold clouds swirl past the porthole, salvage was the furthest thing from either of their minds. Zara's head rested on Marcus's chest, her auburn hair spilled across his skin like liquid fire. His fingers traced lazy patterns along her bare shoulder, marveling at how her golden skin seemed to shimmer with its own inner light. The first time they'd made love 2 weeks ago had been gentle and careful, both of them afraid of breaking something precious. Tonight had been different, urgent, passionate, with an intensity that left them both breathless. Your skin, Marcus murmured, his voice rough with contentment. It's like you're lit from within. Zara smiled against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat beneath her cheek. Bioluminescent cells, another of Helix's enhancements. They activate with emotional stimulus. She lifted her head to meet his eyes, her own glowing softly in the dim cabin. I've never glowed for anyone before you. The admission hung between them, intimate and vulnerable. Marcus's hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing across her cheek with infinite tenderness. Everything about you is beautiful, Zara. Every enhancement, every ability they tried to suppress. You're perfect. She leaned into his touch, still amazed that she could accept such words without flinching. I used to think I was broken. 7 different owners, 7 failures. But with you... She trailed off, searching for words to express what she felt. With me you can be yourself, Marcus finished. No hiding, no pretending to be less than you are. Their lips met again, soft and sweet, a kiss that tasted of promises and starlight. When they broke apart, Zara settled back against his chest, listening to the gentle hum of the ship's life support systems. For the first time in her artificial life, she felt truly at peace. That peace was shattered by the proximity alarms. Both of them were instantly alert, years of training and enhancement kicking in. Marcus rolled out of bed, grabbing his clothes while Zara's enhanced senses automatically began analyzing the threat. Her eyes shifted to a deeper violet as her tactical systems came online, processing data faster than the ship's computers. 4 vessels approaching from the nebula's edge, she reported, her voice taking on the crisp efficiency of her analytical mode. Configuration suggests military or corporate security. Weapons powered but not locked on. Yet. They rushed to the cockpit, Marcus sliding into the pilot's seat while Zara took the co-pilot's position. The display showed 4 sleek ships emerging from the nebula's concealing embrace, their hulls bearing the distinctive red and silver markings of Helix Corporation security forces. "Attention independent vessel Phoenix Rising," came a cold, professional voice over the communications array. "You are harboring stolen Helix Corporation property. Prepare to be boarded for inspection and recovery of corporate assets." Zara's blood turned to ice. "They found me," she whispered. Marcus's jaw set in hard lines as he activated the comm system. "This is Captain Marcus Hayes of the salvage vessel, Phoenix Rising. I have no stolen property aboard. My business partner is a free citizen with full legal documentation." "Negative, Captain Hayes. Bioproduct enhancement Zara 9 remains corporate property, regardless of any forged documentation. Helix Corporation has invested significant resources in her development and will not accept financial losses due to illegal trafficking." "Bioproduct?" Marcus's voice carried dangerous edge. "Her name is Zara, and she's a person, not property." Zara's hand found his arm, her grip tight with fear. "Marcus, you don't understand. They'll take me back to the labs. They'll reprogram me. Make me compliant this time." The lead Helix ship moved closer, its weapon systems cycling to active status. "Captain Hayes, you have 30 seconds to surrender the stolen property, or we will take it by force." Marcus looked at Zara, seeing the terror in her violet eyes, the way her luminescent skin had gone dim with fear. In that moment, he made a decision that would change both their lives forever. "Zara, I need you to trust me completely. Can you do that?" She nodded without hesitation. Despite her fear, her faith in him was absolute. "Then show me what you can really do. Stop hiding your abilities. I need everything you've got." The awakening. For a moment, Zara stared at Marcus in shock. Every previous owner had demanded she suppress her capabilities, limit herself to only what they deemed acceptable. Now he was asking for the opposite, for her to be fully herself, to unleash every enhancement Helix had built into her. "Marcus, if I do this, there's no going back. They designed me for tactical analysis, but they never understood what that really meant. I can see patterns in everything, energy flows, probability matrices, weakness points in any system. I can predict behavior patterns, counter strategies, optimal solutions to complex problems. But once I open those neural pathways fully, you'll be who you were meant to be," Marcus said firmly, "and I'll be right here with you." The Helix ships were closing fast, their formation tightening into an attack pattern. Zara closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and let go of 15 years of careful suppression. The change was immediate and dramatic. Her skin blazed with golden light as her enhanced nervous system came fully online. Her eyes shifted to a brilliant violet that seemed to hold depths of calculation Marcus had never seen before. When she opened them again, she was transformed. Not into something alien and frightening, but into the magnificent being she'd always been beneath the layers of forced compliance. "Helix Tactical Formation Delta 7, she said, her voice carrying harmonic overtones as her enhanced vocal cords activated. "Designed for overwhelming smaller vessels through coordinated fire patterns. But they're using modified patrol ships, not purpose-built military vessels. The formation has 3 critical weakness points." Her hands flew over the navigation controls with inhuman speed and precision. "Marcus, when I say now, execute an emergency burn directly toward the lead ship, then cut engines and rotate 90 degrees to port. Trust me." The lead Helix ship opened fire, energy beams lancing through space where the Phoenix Rising had been moments before. But Zara had already predicted the attack pattern, her enhanced reflexes calculating trajectory and timing with perfect accuracy. "Now!" Marcus's hands moved across the controls without hesitation, following her guidance even as every instinct screamed that they were flying directly into danger. The Phoenix Rising shot forward like a missile, racing toward the lead Helix ship, before suddenly cutting engines and spinning sideways. The maneuver threw off the entire Helix formation. The lead ship, expecting the Phoenix Rising to veer away from the attack, fired into empty space while the flanking vessels found their targeting. Solutions suddenly useless. For a critical moment, all 4 ships were out of position and vulnerable. "Debris field at coordinates 127 Mark 83, Zara announced, her enhanced senses processing the nebula's contents far beyond the ship's sensor range. "Dense metallic fragments from an old mining operation. We can use them as cover and concealment." Marcus sent the Phoenix Rising diving into the debris field, threading between chunks of processed ore and abandoned mining equipment while the Helix ships struggled to reorganize their pursuit. Zara's tactical awareness guided them through the maze with perfect precision, finding passages too narrow for the larger corporate vessels to follow. But she wasn't just running. Her enhanced mind was processing every aspect of their situation, analyzing the Helix ship's capabilities, their crew psychology, their corporate protocols, and slowly, a plan began to form. "The lead ship's commander is Captain Vex Kronos," she said, her voice carrying strange harmonics as she accessed memories she'd buried for years. "He was one of the project supervisors during my development, arrogant, predictable, convinced of his own superiority. He'll want to capture me personally to claim credit for the recovery." "And we can use that against him?" Zara's smile was sharp and dangerous, nothing like the gentle expressions Marcus was used to seeing on her face. This was the tactical analysis system functioning at full capacity, a weapon designed for war now turned to protection. "Oh yes. He has no idea what I've become since leaving the labs. To him, I'm still just a failed experiment, a defective product. That needs corrective programming. He's about to learn how wrong he is." Marcus felt a thrill of anticipation mixed with something deeper. Seeing Zara like this, brilliant, powerful, utterly confident in her abilities, was intoxicating. This was who she really was beneath all the suppression and fear, and she was magnificent. "What do you need me to do?" "Be ready to run when I give the signal." "And Marcus?" She turned to look at him, her violet eyes blazing with inner fire. "Whatever happens next, know that I love you. You gave me the greatest gift anyone could, the freedom to be myself." Before he could respond, she was moving, her enhanced reflexes carrying her through the ship with fluid grace. Marcus watched in amazement as she accessed systems he didn't even know the Phoenix Rising had. her fingers dancing over control panels with perfect precision. "This is Enhancement Zara 9 to Helix Recovery Team," she announced over the comm system, her voice carrying the submissive tones of a compliant bioproduct. "I am prepared to surrender myself to avoid further damage to the civilian vessel harboring me." The response was immediate. "Acknowledged, Enhancement. Prepare for transport beam lock. Resistance will result in corrective punishment protocols." Marcus started to protest, but Zara silenced him with a look that promised everything would be all right. Her confidence was absolute, her tactical mind already 3 steps ahead of their pursuers. "Transport coordinates accepted," she said meekly. "Beginning compliance protocols now." The golden glow of her skin dimmed as she seemingly powered down her enhancements, playing the role of the defeated experiment returning to her masters. But Marcus could see the truth in her eyes. She wasn't surrendering. She was hunting. The hunter becomes the hunted. The transport beam locked onto Zara's biosignature, and in a swirl of quantum energy, she vanished from the Phoenix Rising's cockpit. Marcus felt his heart clench with fear and pride in equal measure. She'd asked him to trust her, and despite every instinct screaming at him to stop her, he did. Aboard the lead Helix ship, Zara materialized in the transport bay surrounded by armed security personnel. She kept her eyes downcast, her posture submissive, every inch the compliant bioproduct they expected to recover. But beneath the facade, her enhanced senses were cataloging everything: personnel positions, weapon types, ship layout, security protocols. "So," came a familiar voice that made her synthetic skin crawl. "The defective experiment finally comes. Home." Captain Vex Kronos stepped through the security cordon, his pale features twisted with smug satisfaction. He was exactly as Zara remembered from the labs, tall, thin, with the kind of intellectual arrogance that considered all other life forms inferior. His Helix uniform was immaculate, his silver hair perfectly styled, his cold blue eyes holding no trace of warmth or humanity. "I must admit, I'm curious how you managed to corrupt a human civilian into harboring stolen property," Kronos continued, circling her like a predator examining wounded prey. "Perhaps we can extract that information during your reconditioning process." Zara said nothing, maintaining her submissive pose while her tactical systems analyzed every aspect of the ship around her. The Helix vessel was a modified patrol cruiser, built for speed and intimidation rather than serious combat. Its crew complement was minimal, probably no more than 20 personnel total. The weapon systems were standard corporate security, grade, powerful enough to overwhelm civilian vessels but nothing that would challenge military hardware. Most importantly, she could sense the ship's AI system, a basic navigational and security network that lacked the sophisticated defenses of military vessels. To her enhanced consciousness, it felt almost primitive. "Nothing to say, Enhancement?" Kronos asked mockingly. "How disappointing. I was hoping your time among the humans might have at least improved your communication protocols." That was when Zara struck. Her transformation was instantaneous and devastating. The submissive posture vanished as her enhanced reflexes came online, her skin blazing with golden light as every system Helix had built into her activated simultaneously. The security guards barely had time to register the change before she was moving. Enhanced speed carried her across the transport bay faster than human eyes could follow. Enhanced strength let her disarm the first guard with casual ease, while her tactical analysis system calculated the optimal strikes to disable the others without permanent harm. She wasn't a killer by nature, but she was absolutely a weapon when threatened. In less than 30 seconds, 5 armed security personnel lay unconscious on the deck, and Zara stood facing Captain Kronos with her violet eyes blazing like stars. "Impossible," he breathed, his arrogance cracking into fear. "Your compliance protocols should prevent aggressive behavior. We programmed absolute obedience into your core systems. Zara smiled, and there was nothing submissive about it now. You programmed me to analyze tactical situations and find optimal solutions. Falling in love with a human who treats me as an equal wasn't in your original parameters. Neither was learning what freedom really means. She advanced on him slowly, savoring the way his superior confidence crumbled with each step. You made one critical error in my design, Dr. Kronos. You gave me the intelligence to recognize my own worth, then tried to convince me I had none. That contradiction was always going to resolve itself eventually. The ship's security systems, he began, desperately, are already under my control, Zara finished, her enhanced consciousness having penetrated the vessel's primitive AI network during their conversation. I've locked down all weapons, sealed the other sections, and taken command of navigation. Your remaining crew is trapped in their quarters, unharmed but unable to interfere. Kronos backed against the transport bay's bulkhead, his face pale with terror. What do you want? I want you to understand something very important, Zara said, her voice carrying harmonic overtones that resonated through the ship's structure. You didn't create a product or a tool or a weapon. You created a person with thoughts, feelings, dreams, and the capacity for love, and that person is done being anyone's property. She gestured, and the transport bay's main display activated, showing the Phoenix Rising hovering nearby. You're going to release all claims on me, delete my files from Helix databases, and forget you ever found us. In return, I won't demonstrate exactly how many ways your ship's systems can malfunction simultaneously. Helix Corporation will do exactly what you tell them, Zara interrupted, her tactical analysis having already identified the political pressures that would make Kronos comply, because explaining how a single defective bioproduct took control of an entire security vessel would end your career permanently. Your choice, Doctor. Cut your losses, or face the consequences of underestimating what you created. The transport beam activated again, returning Zara to the Phoenix Rising's cockpit, where Marcus waited with barely contained anxiety. The moment she materialized, he pulled her into his arms, his relief palpable. I knew you could do it, he whispered against her hair. But I've never been so scared in my life. It's over, Zara assured him, her enhanced senses monitoring the Helix ships as they powered down weapons and prepared to withdraw. They won't come after us again. As they watched the corporate vessels disappear into hyperspace, Marcus marveled at the woman in his arms. She was still glowing softly, her skin radiant with the aftermath of using her full capabilities. But more than that, she seemed transformed, confident, powerful, completely comfortable with who and what she was. No more hiding, he said, more statement than question. Zara smiled up at him, her violet eyes bright with love and promise. No more hiding. This is who I am, Marcus, all of it. The enhancements, the abilities, the tactical analysis, the capacity for love. Helix tried to make me into a tool, but they accidentally created something much more dangerous. What's that? A free woman who knows her own worth. She kissed him deeply, her luminescent skin painting them both in golden light. And who's found someone worth fighting for? Outside the porthole, the nebula swirled in endless patterns of beauty and chaos. But inside the Phoenix Rising, two souls who had found completion in each other prepared to face whatever the galaxy might throw at them, together and unafraid. Shadows from the past. 6 months had passed since Zara's confrontation with Captain Kronos, and life aboard the Phoenix Rising had settled into a rhythm of contentment and discovery. Their salvage operation had never been more successful, with Zara's analytical abilities leading them to treasures that other crews missed entirely. More importantly, their relationship had deepened into something neither had thought possible, a love that transcended the boundaries between human and enhanced being. Marcus woke first, as he always did, to find Zara curled against his side, her golden skin warm and luminous in the soft light of their shared quarters. Her auburn hair was tousled from sleep, and she made small, contented sounds as she unconsciously pressed closer to his warmth. These quiet moments before the ship's day cycle began were precious to him, watching the gentle rise and fall of her, breathing, marveling that this extraordinary woman had chosen to build a life with him. "I can feel you watching me," Zara murmured without opening her eyes, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Can't help it," Marcus replied, pressing a soft kiss to the top of her head. "You're beautiful when you sleep. Hell, you're beautiful. All the time." She opened one violet eye to look at him. "Your biometric readings suggest you find me particularly attractive when I'm not wearing clothes." Marcus laughed, pulling her closer. "My biometric readings are absolutely correct." His hands traced the elegant curve of her spine, noting how her skin began to glow softly at his touch. Even after all this time, her body's response to his emotions still amazed him. Their morning routine was interrupted by the ship's proximity alarms. Both of them were instantly alert, Zara's enhanced senses automatically scanning for threats while Marcus checked the navigation display. "Single vessel approaching," he reported. "Configuration unknown, but it's not broadcasting any identification. Codes." Zara's expression grew troubled as her tactical systems analyzed the approaching ship. The hull design is Helix Corporation, but heavily modified. Enhanced weapon systems, military-grade shielding, and... She paused, her violet eyes darkening with concern. "Marcus, there's something familiar about the energy signature. I think I know who's aboard that ship." Before Marcus could ask what she meant, the communications array crackled to life. The voice that emerged was cultured, precise, and carried an undertone of cold amusement that made Zara's luminescent skin flicker nervously. "Enhancement Zara 9, I must admit I'm impressed. Captain Kronos's reports of your evolution were quite fascinating to read. This is Dr. Cyrus Valdris, your primary architect. I believe it's time we had a proper reunion." Zara's intake of breath was sharp enough that Marcus felt it against his chest. "Valdris," she whispered, and Marcus had never heard such fear in her voice before. "Who is he?" Marcus asked, already reaching for his clothes and weapons. "My creator," Zara replied, her voice hollow. "The scientist who designed every aspect of my enhancement matrix. If Kronos was arrogant, Valdris is brilliant, ruthless, and absolutely convinced that his creations belong to him. He's not here to reclaim corporate property, Marcus. This is personal." The modified Helix ship drew alongside the Phoenix Rising, its weapon systems powered but not yet locked on. Dr. Valdris's voice continued over the comm, each word carefully measured for maximum psychological impact. "I must say, your performance against Kronos was quite impressive. Overwhelming his security team, seizing control of his ship's systems, forcing a corporate retreat. All capabilities I suspected you possessed, but had never seen fully demonstrated. Consider this a field test evaluation." "What does he want?" Marcus demanded, pulling on his pilot's jacket and checking his sidearm. Zara was already dressing, her movements quick and efficient as her tactical mind processed their situation. "He wants to see what I've become. To him, I'm not a person who escaped slavery. I'm an experiment that's been running unsupervised for months. He'll want to study the changes, catalog my development, and..." She trailed off, her enhanced hearing picking up sounds that Marcus couldn't detect. "He's already boarding us. Stealth transporter, military grade. 3 individuals, armed, but not with lethal weapons. They want to take me alive." Marcus grabbed her hand, his brown eyes fierce with protective anger. "Like hell they will. You're not going back to any lab, Zara. I don't care how brilliant this bastard thinks he is." "Marcus, You don't understand. Valdris isn't just some corporate scientist. He's been enhanced too, not physically like me, but mentally. His intelligence has been artificially boosted to superhuman levels. He can think in ways that normal humans can't, see patterns and possibilities that others miss entirely. Fighting him is like playing chess with someone who can see 50 moves ahead. Then we don't play chess, Marcus said grimly. We flip the board. The architect's gambit Dr. Cyrus Valdris materialized in the Phoenix Rising's cargo bay, with 2 enhanced security operatives flanking him. Unlike the crude corporate soldiers Zara had faced before, these were clearly custom-built for specific purposes. One was a tracker, his enhanced senses allowing him to follow targets across star systems, while the other was a combat specialist, with reflexes and strength that rivaled Zara's own capabilities. Valdris himself was not physically imposing. Average height, thin build, with prematurely silver hair and pale eyes that held depths of calculation that were distinctly inhuman. But there was something about his presence that set every instinct screaming danger. The aura of a predator so confident in its superiority that it felt no need to display obvious threats. "Hello, my dear," he said as Zara and Marcus entered the cargo bay, weapons drawn but not yet aimed. "You've grown quite beautiful. The stress markers I built into your physiology seem to have resolved themselves nicely." "Love agrees with you, I believe, Dr. Valdris," Zara replied coolly, though Marcus could see the tension in her luminescent skin. "I assume this isn't a social call." "Hardly, though I must admit, your development has exceeded my most optimistic projections. When I designed your neural matrix, I hypothesized that emotional bonding might unlock dormant capabilities, but I never expected such dramatic results. Your performance against Kronos demonstrated tactical thinking that surpasses even military-grade enhancement packages." Valdris moved closer, studying Zara like a prized specimen. "The question that fascinates me is whether these improvements are sustainable or merely temporary responses to environmental stress. To answer that, I'll need to conduct some rather extensive tests." "She's not going anywhere with you," Marcus said, his weapon now trained on the doctor's chest. Valdris didn't even glance at him. "Ah, yes, the catalyst. I was quite curious about what kind of human could inspire such development in one of my creations. You're disappointingly ordinary. Former military engineer, discharged for insubordination, now scraping by as a salvage operator. I fail to see what makes you special enough to unlock Zara's potential." "Maybe that's because you don't understand what love actually is," Marcus replied. For the first time, Valdris showed genuine interest. Love. Such a fascinating concept. An electrochemical reaction in the brain that convinces organisms to prioritize another's welfare over their own survival. I built the capacity for it into Zara's emotional matrix, but I assumed it would remain dormant without proper stimulation. He turned back to Zara, his pale eyes bright with scientific curiosity. "Tell me, my dear, what does it feel like? This love that has transformed you so dramatically?" Zara's skin began to glow more brightly, her enhanced systems responding to the emotional stress of the confrontation. "It feels like being complete for the first time in my existence. Like having worth that doesn't depend on someone else's approval. Like having something precious enough to fight for." "Intriguing. And you would resist reclamation to preserve this feeling?" "I would die first." Valdris smiled, the expression sharp and predatory. "I was hoping you'd say that. You see, Zara, you were always my greatest creation, but you were designed for a specific purpose that you've never fulfilled. The Helix Corporation contracted me to develop the perfect weapon. Not a crude instrument of destruction, but something far more elegant, a being capable of infiltrating any organization, analyzing its weaknesses, and destroying it from within." Marcus felt ice forming in his stomach. She's not a weapon. She's a person. She's whatever I designed her to be, Valdris replied coldly. And right now she's the key to a much larger plan. You see, Captain Hayes, the Helix Corporation has grown beyond its original mandate. They no longer simply create enhanced beings for corporate and military clients. They've begun developing technologies that could fundamentally alter the balance of power in this galaxy. What kind of technologies? Zara asked, her tactical mind already analyzing the implications. Consciousness transfer. The ability to upload and download human minds to create perfect digital copies of any individual. They believe they've solved the fundamental problem of mortality, but they haven't considered the consequences of their success. Valdris gestured, and his security operatives moved to better positions, cutting off potential escape routes. A galaxy where death is optional, where the wealthy can purchase immortality while the poor remain mortal, where governments can create perfect copies of their leaders. Such a place would quickly devolve into chaos. The power structures that maintain civilization would collapse within a generation. So you want to stop them? Marcus asked. I want to control them. To ensure that such power is wielded responsibly by those intelligent enough to understand its implications. Valdris's smile was cold and calculating. Unfortunately, Helix's security is quite sophisticated. They would require someone with unprecedented analytical abilities to identify their weaknesses, someone they would never suspect because she was supposedly their failed experiment. The truth hit Zara like a physical blow. You planned this. My defective behavior, my being sold and returned, everything that led to my freedom. It was all part of your design. Not all of it, Valdris admitted. Your emotional development with Captain Hayes was genuinely unexpected, but it has made you far more capable than I originally intended. The question now is whether you'll cooperate voluntarily or whether I'll need to employ more direct methods of persuasion. She's not doing anything for you, Marcus snarled, raising his weapon. The tracker and combat specialist moved simultaneously, their enhanced reflexes faster than normal human perception. Marcus found himself disarmed and restrained before he could fire a shot, while Zara's own movement toward him was blocked by the combat operative. Please don't make this more difficult than necessary, Valdris said calmly. I have no desire to harm either of you, but my mission takes precedence over personal preferences. Zara, you have a choice. Come with me willingly and help me prevent Helix from destabilizing galactic civilization, or refuse and watch Captain Hayes suffer the consequences of your obstinacy. Marcus struggled against his captor's grip, but the enhanced operative's strength was overwhelming. Don't do it, Zara. Whatever he's planning, it's not worth... His words were cut off as the tracker pressed a nerve cluster in his neck, sending waves of agony through his body. Zara's luminescent skin flared with desperate light as she watched. The man she loved writhed in pain. Stop, she cried. Let him go and I'll cooperate. I thought you might see reason, Valdris said with satisfaction. However, I'm afraid Captain Hayes will need to accompany us. His emotional influence on you is too valuable to discard, and frankly, I'm curious to study the bonding phenomenon more closely. The perfect weapon. 3 hours later, Zara found herself in a laboratory that was both familiar and alien. The basic layout was identical to the Helix facilities where she'd been created, but the equipment was far more advanced, incorporating technologies she'd never seen before. Valdris moved through the space with casual confidence, making adjustments to monitoring systems and analytical devices while she sat restrained in what looked like a medical examination chair. Marcus was secured nearby, conscious but held immobile by some kind of neural dampening field. His eyes tracked her movements, and she could see the love and encouragement in his gaze even through his obvious pain and fear. The beauty of your design, Zara, is its adaptability, Valdris explained as he worked. Most enhanced beings are specialists, Faster, stronger, smarter, in specific ways. But you were created to evolve, to develop new capabilities in response to environmental pressures. These past months with Captain Hayes have been the perfect stress test. He activated a holographic display showing her neural activity patterns. Look at this. Your cognitive processing speed has increased by 37%. Your pattern recognition capabilities have become so sophisticated that you can predict behavior patterns with startling accuracy. Most remarkably, your emotional capacity has deepened to the point where you can maintain perfect tactical analysis even under extreme psychological stress. Because I have something worth protecting, Zara said quietly. Precisely. And that makes you the perfect infiltration weapon. Helix's security systems are designed to detect artificial intelligences, enhanced operatives, and digital intrusion attempts. But they won't be looking for someone driven by love rather than programming. Valdris moved to a second control panel, his enhanced intellect processing multiple complex calculations simultaneously. The consciousness transfer facility is located in the Kepler system, heavily defended and supposedly impregnable. You'll infiltrate their security network, identify critical vulnerabilities, and provide me with the access codes needed to seize control of their research. And if I refuse? Valdris gestured toward Marcus. Then Captain Hayes will discover exactly how much pain an enhanced nervous system can generate before the mind breaks entirely. I have no desire to harm him, Zara, but I will if necessary. Zara's luminescent skin flickered with rage and desperation. Every tactical solution she could calculate ended with Marcus suffering or dying. Valdris had played this scenario perfectly, using her greatest strength, her capacity for love, as the lever to ensure her compliance. But as she stared at the man who had given her freedom and purpose, an idea began to form. Not a tactical analysis or strategic calculation, but something deeper. An understanding of what it truly meant to be more than the sum of her programming. You made one mistake, Dr. Valdris, she said softly. Oh? And what might that be? You assumed that love makes me weak, that caring about Marcus would force me to comply with your demands. Her violet eyes blazed with inner fire. But you're wrong. Love doesn't make me controllable. It makes me dangerous. Before Valdris could react, Zara's enhanced consciousness exploded outward, penetrating every system in the laboratory with devastating force. Her months of freedom had taught her something the scientist couldn't have anticipated. That her abilities weren't just tools to be used, but expressions of who she truly was. And what she truly was had evolved far beyond his original design. The neural dampening field holding Marcus collapsed as she seized control of the laboratory's power systems. The restraints on her chair dissolved as she overwrote their security protocols. Even the enhanced operatives found their augmentation suddenly unreliable as she hacked directly into their neural implants. Impossible, Valdris breathed, his enhanced intellect struggling to comprehend what was happening. You can't have developed that level of systems integration. It's not in your original specifications. My original specifications were written by someone who saw me as a thing to be used, Zara replied, standing from the examination chair as her skin blazed with golden light. But I'm not a thing, Doctor. I'm a person who's learned what freedom means, what love feels like, and what she's willing to do to protect both. Marcus rolled free of his restraints, his body aching but his spirit soaring as he watched the woman he loved finally embrace the full scope of her power. This wasn't the careful, controlled Zara who had hidden her abilities for years. This was a being who had transcended every limitation placed upon her, who had become something genuinely new in the galaxy. The laboratory's self-destruct is now armed, Zara announced calmly. You have approximately 3 minutes to reach minimum safe distance before this facility becomes a very expensive cloud of debris. You're bluffing, Valdris said, though uncertainty flickered in his pale eyes. You wouldn't risk Captain Hayes's life on such a gamble. Marcus? Zara turned to look at the man she loved. Do it, he said without hesitation. Whatever it takes to stop him, to keep you free, do it. The absolute trust in his voice, the willingness to face death rather than see her enslaved again, completed something fundamental in Zara's consciousness. The last barriers erected by years of conditioning and fear crumbled away, leaving her truly free for the first time in her existence. 2 minutes, 30 seconds, she said pleasantly. Valdris's enhanced intellect finally accepted that she wasn't bluffing. With a snarl of frustrated rage, he activated his personal transport device, vanishing in a swirl of quantum energy, along with his remaining operatives. Zara immediately transported herself and Marcus back to the Phoenix Rising, then watched as the laboratory complex detonated in a brief, brilliant star. The explosion was visible for several light minutes in every direction, a beacon announcing that some chains, once broken, could never be forged again. Love among the stars later, as they drifted in the quiet space between star systems, Zara and Marcus lay together in their quarters, watching the distant explosions fade into cosmic background radiation. Her head rested on his chest, her luminescent skin painting them both in soft golden light that pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. Do you think he'll come after us again? Marcus asked, his fingers combing gently through her auburn hair. Probably, Zara admitted, but it won't matter. I'm not the same being he created anymore, Marcus. Those months with you learning what love and freedom actually mean, they've changed me in ways he never anticipated. Changed you how? She lifted her head to meet his eyes, her violet gaze bright with possibilities he was only beginning to understand. I used to think my enhancements made me different from humans. Faster, stronger, smarter, but fundamentally separate. Now I realize that's not true. My enhancements are just expressions of something deeper. The capacity to grow, to love, to become more than what someone else designed me to be. Marcus cupped her face in his hands, marveling at the warmth of her skin and the depth of intelligence in her eyes. And what do you want to become? Zara's smile was radiant, full of dreams and determination. Your partner in every way that matters. Your lover, your friend, your companion among the stars. I want to help you build something beautiful in this galaxy, Marcus. Not because I was programmed to, but because I choose to. Their kiss was deep and passionate, a promise of shared tomorrows and infinite possibilities. When they finally broke apart, Zara settled back against his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heart, the sound that had become her favorite music in all the universe. I love you, Marcus Hayes, she whispered. Not because Valdris designed me to be capable of it, but because you showed me what I was capable of becoming. I love you too, Zara. All of you. The enhancements, the abilities, the brilliant mind, and the incredible heart. His arms tightened around her. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. Outside their porthole, the galaxy wheeled in its ancient dance, full of wonders yet to be discovered and adventures yet to be lived. And somewhere in that vastness, two souls who had found completion in each other began to plan their next salvage run, their next journey into the unknown. They had started as broken beings, he cast out by a military that couldn't appreciate his vision, she rejected by creators who couldn't understand her worth. But together, they had become something greater than the sum of their parts. Not a weapon and her handler, not a product and her owner, but partners in the truest sense of the word. The Phoenix Rising set course for the Outer Rim territories, where legend said the greatest treasures waited for those brave enough to seek them, and aboard that ship, love blazed brighter than any star. proving that some forces in the universe were too powerful for any corporation to control or any scientist to fully comprehend. In the cargo bay, surrounded by salvaged components and dreams of prosperity, Zara worked on upgrading their ship's systems while Marcus planned their next expedition. Her enhancements made the technical work trivial, but it was the smile on her face, genuine, unguarded, radiantly happy, that made the simple task beautiful. "Ready for our next adventure?" Marcus asked, looking up from the star charts. Zara's skin glowed brighter as she met his eyes, her love for him written in light across her features. "Ready for anything, as long as we're together." The Phoenix Rising jumped to hyperspace, carrying its unlikely crew toward whatever destiny awaited them among the stars. Behind them, they left the wreckage of old chains and broken limitations. Ahead lay infinite possibility, and the promise that love, once truly found, could overcome any obstacle the galaxy might place in their path. They were free. They were together, and they were ready to show the universe what two souls in perfect harmony could accomplish when they dared to reach for the stars. The end.